Hi, I'm Lisa Taylor, Director of the National WWII World War II Museum. I know my name is familiar to so many of you because you've been supporting us for years. When I took this role in 2019, that was the first thing I did. I looked you up. I wanted to see who was involved in this museum. And I was so surprised to find that most of you live hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. You know, when you donate to a local museum, you get to see the progress in real time. You get to take advantage of their programs and new exhibits, and it becomes an entertainment facility for you and your friends. But when you give to the museum, it's completely selfless. You're giving so that other people can enjoy those things. That's just such an example of generosity. We just opened up our new hangar. We did a complete renovation at a cost of $1 million. And you all made this possible. And yet so many of you will never be at the museum to see the fruit of your labor. And so thanks to modern technology, I've realized I can bring the museum to you. So join me as we walk through the museum. All right, so we're stepping into a 1929 hangar that was here on the property when the WWII were also here. You'll notice it's in the traditional Army colors of green with pops of red. One of my favorite things in this welcome room is the wall that you see here. This wall has the name of every woman who participated in the program, whether she graduated or not. And we felt it was important to include all of them because they were part of the grand experiment of women going into aviation. Here you'll see them by class, and they're separated by WWII and trainees. Another feature that we admire so much is this film that we've created. It's our orientation video. And this is, if you stop off here, it's a 5-minute film that will tell you about the whole program. It's a great overview before you walk into the hangar and see the other exhibits. And I have to point out one of my very favorite photos. This was out of the North American Skyline magazine in September-October issue of 1943. It's the only picture you're gonna see in color. And I just love that the ladies got some great press even in the moment. All right, so now it's time to go into the hangar, so follow me. So as you come on through, the first thing you're gonna notice is our airplanes. We have an airplane for every single part of training, but you gotta be patient, and we'll go by those a little bit later. But I wanna take you through the way that you would probably go through it if you were here. This is my absolute favorite exhibit, except for maybe the airplanes. Many of you call us and ask for information about the WWII all the time. This exhibit is called Roll Call. And it's a touch screen where you can look up any WWII or instructor that you are curious about. And you can do it by name, location, or photo. So let's say I want to look it up by photo, and up is going to pop a whole screen full of pictures. And let's say I recognize, oh, I think that's Nancy Love. So I click on it, sure enough, it is. And I can select her, and it's gonna pull up, you know, her classification, where she's from, and what airplanes that she flew. And then if I wanna know more about her, I can go ahead and click on that bio and find out all kinds of information on her. So this was quite a labor of love, and we were so happy to finish it. You're going to learn about life in Sweetwater. And you know, there was a lot of adjusting to do when these ladies got here. Most of them came from up north and all around, and the landscape here in Sweetwater was really different. It was a very small West Texas town. So there was a lot of adjusting to be done. Once they got into the program, they weren't gonna have much downtime. But they did get to get out for a little bit, and I really like this exhibit because it shows what they could do on days and weekends. movies ruled the day. And so we show some of those artifacts, but look at that camera and that film reel. That's really pretty special. And then when you look on this side, you're gonna see the exhibits of what they had to do to get into the program. What were the requirements and how did they get here? Kind of their fears about how they were gonna be able to make it through. So at the end of this corridor, we're going to see the wasps' living quarters. This is called a bay, and these exhibits give you all kinds of information about what their lives were like. They were civilians, but they were under military discipline and control. So these rooms, these beds had to be made perfect. Everything had to be clean the military way, and so it was a lot of pressure after a full day of training to come home and get ready for those inspections. And never forget, even though that they were acting as military pilots, they had this real pressure to be beautiful at all times. And so these are fun artifacts that show how they had to dress themselves. It was actually a requirement, y'all, that they had to keep lipstick in their flight suits at all times and a comb. They couldn't get out of the cockpit until they put the lipstick on and combed their hair. If you take a peek inside the bay, you're gonna see 6 Army cots with wool blankets. So 6 women shared one room. They shared a bathroom with a connecting room that had 6 more women in it. So can you imagine having to look beautiful and share one bathroom, 2 showers with 12 women? I could tell you about this all day long, but why wouldn't you want to hear it from Betty? Hi, Betty.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. My name is Betty, and I'm just about ready to go out for my flight training today. And boy, is it gonna be a hot one. Our 10th day of temperatures over 100 degrees.
Well, the part of training that, of course, the women most wanted was flight training. They had half a day of ground school where they did meteorology, navigation, mechanics and so forth, physics, but all they wanted to do was fly. So we're showing you the best parts of their training. This here is a steerman. It's a primary trainer, and it would have been the first airplane that they would have trained in. They would need to pass 50 hours in this airplane and then a solo check ride. And once they did that, then they could go up to basic training. While they were here, they also spent 50 hours in the Link Trainer, a simulator that they called the Black Box. And it helped them, of course, simulate all kinds of different weather conditions, instrument training, and so forth. But once they were past all that, they would be so excited to graduate up to the BT-13 VOLT-E. So this is a basic trainer. They called it the VOLT-E vibrator because it shook violently when they were going through the air. It was harder to maneuver. It was harder to recover from mistakes. So it was a challenging phase, but they still had to complete 50 hours and a solo ride in that. But then their reward was coming. If they didn't wash out, right? Because if they didn't pass that ride, right, they would wash out and be sent home. But if they accomplished, graduating, then it was the T6 that they would get to fly. This was what they were all looking forward to. It's an advanced trainer. It has 600 horsepower engine versus the 400 in the BT-13. And it was light and maneuverable, and it was just their favorite. It was also the favorite for most of the male pilots. So once they passed their 50 hours in this, they were close to the end. They had to serve a little bit of time in the UC-78 Bobcat. Now, the Bobcat was not a plane that any of them looked forward to because it was big and it was heavy. It's a twin engine though, and they had to have time in a twin engine because when they graduated, they would be flying bombers, pursuit planes. They needed this experience, but it's slow and it's lumbering. And in fact, one of the WASPs said it takes all day long just to get up to altitude. The nice part is they only had to fly 20 hours in this before they would graduate. An interesting side note about the Bobcat is that there are only 5 airworthy planes, Bobcats left in the US, and the WASP Museum owns one of them. So when we take it to air shows, people are always excited to see it, and they'll often walk up and say, I've only seen this in pictures. I've never seen this live. And so of course we give them the treat of getting to take a tour through the plane, and it's fun to educate people on airplanes that they've never seen. So this exhibit behind me talks about graduation day. And there was so much fanfare wrapped around that. You'll learn a lot about what it looks like. There was lots of marching and singing and parades. Jackie Cochran would come in, as well as General Arnold, and they would personally pin those coveted silver wings on each woman's chest. They would also send a picture of each woman to her hometown so that it could be put in the newspaper. So you'll see some examples of that. So with graduation behind them, they were finally going to do what they longed to do, which was to be assigned to a duty base and perform really important work for the Army Air Corps. So one of our big initiatives in opening up the hangar was to make it more family friendly and to reach our young ones so that they could learn about World War II history as well. So we offer this flight bag program, and inside the kiddos will find all kinds of activities and questions that they can answer, and they carry it through with them, and they can read the boards. There's some interactive features that I want to show you, and when they get everything filled out, they can turn it in for a set of wings. Some of the great features that are so interactive are, we ask you questions, right? So you'll read a panel, and then it'll say, like, can you guess what the term means? So what is a zoot suit? You guys know? I'm a little privileged to know that. That was their flight suits that came in size 44 long. It was the men's surplus. And so they had to belt it in and roll up the sleeves. In fact, here's a really fun picture of that. And but they named them zoot suits. Another great feature that's so eye-catching is we used a lot of primary sources, which involved, magazines and cartoons, a lot of political cartoons and satire that they did about the ladies. And so it's just a great way to catch not only adults' attention, right, but the kids as well. So here's another interactive feature where it rolls. This particular panel talks about how WASP have their own set of myths and lore. And so it asks you questions, and you can see if it's true or false. So soldiers often shot at WASP pilots while they were flying. Is that true or false? Well, it is actually true, because when they were towing targets for live gunnery practice, they did get shot at. So this hangar really concentrates mostly on their training and not nearly as much about what they did afterwards. But we do have several panels here that will give you an idea of where they went from here. The ladies performed every critical stateside job in order to free men to go to combat. They ferried aircraft from one destination to the next. They towed targets. They instructed male pilots. They did test flights. Basically anything that they were asked to do, they did. They flew the heaviest bombers and the fastest pursuit planes. They could be flying one plane one day and another the next. They were ready for anything. And but this is what they wanted. It was their heart's dream, and so we want you to be able to learn about that as well. In the next couple of years, we will be expanding into our next hangar, which will talk about their service in a lot greater detail. I hope you enjoyed walking through the museum today, and I hope that you like what you've seen, because you definitely had such a strong hand in making it happen. So thank you so much for being our partners and for supporting us all these years. It means the world to us and to the families who come visit. We hope you make it here soon, and that I get to meet you in person.